Hey everybody, so in our continuing series on Hinduism, today we dive into everybody's favorite Sanskrit word, everybody's favorite Hindu concept, karma. It's practically an English word, isn't it? I mean, people use it all the time. So normally when you hear the word karma around here, you think of sort of cliche phrases like what goes around comes around, or, which aren't bad. They kind of get us going in the right direction. Okay, what goes around comes around. So there's sort of a loop in the universe. Whatever you put out there is going to come back to you. Kindness or selfishness or whatever. That's not bad, but you know what? We need to deepen into it and make it more subtle, because that's a little too mechanical, isn't it? What goes around comes around. That implies that if you put good stuff out in the universe, only good things come back to you. Or if you put bad things out in the universe, only bad things come to you. Well, we see that that's not true. Pretty awful people are often rewarded, and good people are often completely crushed and overlooked. So the system is not an automatic payback system, right? There's something subtler going on. Let's figure it out together. So the word karma literally means action. So it's just that simple, right? Action or activity. And in the teachings of Hinduism, it comes to mean the law of cause and effect, that everything is not the cause of itself, that every thought, every word, every deed stems from causes that came before it. And in turn, each event sets into motion all kinds of future consequences. And so the entire universe then is a web of chains of causation. Nothing is the cause of itself. Every event is caused by something that came before it. And so this is often called the law of karma, because like the law of gravity, it's inescapable. It's said in Hinduism that even the gods are subject to the laws of karma. Let me ask you a question, and let's see if we can't get below the surface here a little bit. Is it possible to refrain from action? Can one step out of the field of action and not act? Well, I can hold still. But in fact, even when I'm holding perfectly still, there's still stuff happening, isn't there? My heart is beating, I'm breathing, consciousness keeps firing thoughts. There's a furnace inside of me burning fuel to keep my body, around 99 degrees in a 72 degree room. And so all of that is action. And so even if I'm standing completely still, I'm not still. I'm still in the field of action. The cereal that I had for breakfast this morning, the milk that I put on my cereal came from a dairy farm up in Central California. And that cow got milked, and that milk got pasteurized in a big kettle, and then it got put into trucks, and those trucks drove down to LA and probably ran over some bunnies and killed a bunch of bugs on the grill. And then it got to LA and it was put into little bottles and cartons, and it got shipped down to San Diego where I live. And then it was put in grocery stores with all those acres and acres of open door refrigeration, burning obscene amounts of energy in all these refrigerators that are open to the room. And I bring that milk home and I pour it on my cereal and I eat it. And that milk keeping me alive right now, keeping my body furnace going. All of the environmental and sociological impact of that whole supply chain of where the milk came from and how it got here and all the energy that was used, that's all on me now. I'm karmically interwoven into that. I bear some moral responsibility unavoidably and inescapably with the death of those bunnies that the truck ran over, all those bugs that were killed, the environmental damage of all those fossil fuels being burned. I cannot not act. I cannot opt out of the field of action. Even if I don't do anything, that sets certain consequences into motion, just as much as if I do something, that sets certain consequences into motion. So let's start there. Karma is inescapable. We are in the field of action. And later when we discuss the Bhagavad Gita, we'll see that in that story, Arjuna finds himself in the battlefield before the war begins, before the battle begins. And in a sense, the whole story is a metaphor of this one idea we're looking at right now. That once you're born and you come out here into the world of forms, you're in the game. And you can't opt out. The only choice you do have is what kind of actions are you going to take. That there are these webs of causation that stem out from every thought, every word, every deed. Every thought is an action. Every word is an action, and every deed is an action. And every one of them is like a pebble thrown into the cosmic pond, and those ripples inexorably travel out, and you can never get them back. You can just throw in more pebbles. Jesus put it this way, right? You're going to reap what you sow. So he's talking to his agricultural worker audience, and they all instantly get it. That every thought, every word, every deed I commit rams a seed into the ground, and that seed is going to bear fruit. And I grew that fruit. So let me use another grocery example, eggs. So when you're in the grocery store and you're buying eggs, you got some decisions to make, right? Should you buy the cheap eggs, or should you buy the expensive cage-free organic eggs? Well, they can be very different prices, right? I was at Costco the other day having this exact interior dialogue, like, wow, look at those cheap eggs, like a 72 pack for $4. And then here's a 24 pack for $7. Like, wow, that's a lot more expensive than the cheap one. But all you have to do is look at one YouTube video of how cheap eggs are made. It's gruesome. They take the chicks and with a hot blade, they burn the beak off, and they cut the talons, the claws off their feet, and they shove 6 hens into a 2x2 cage. And these hens, the reason they cut their beak and claws off is because these poor chickens spend their entire short, miserable life trying to murder each other in their criminal insanity, shoved into this horrible torture chamber cage. And they squirt out your cheap eggs, and they go down a conveyor belt. That's how we get cheap eggs. And if you look at that video and you're like, we don't have to do that. We don't have to torment these sentient beings. There's no reason except profit. And in fact, enough customers at Costco went to the manager and said, I'd like organic eggs. I'd like cage-free eggs. And Costco, may not have a position on this, but they went to the egg suppliers and they said, hey, our customers want cage-free, humanely produced organic eggs. And the suppliers are like, okay, give us a couple years to turn over our operation. They did. And now they're selling these cage-free eggs. Now, these chickens are not mutilated, and they get to walk around and have normal chicken lives and lay eggs. It costs a little more to produce eggs that way, but more and more people are like, you know what? I'm going to vote with my dollar for a world that reflects my moral principles. And so, did the government order this? No. This is one of those capitalist sort of things that happens, right? When enough customers start asking for something, the providers just do it. And so I'm using this egg example because it's a nice example of karma. All these individual people making their individual egg purchase decisions changed the industry. And then you know what happened? McDonald's, the single largest purchaser on earth of eggs, beef, chicken, tomatoes, lettuce, pork. I mean, when McDonald's makes a menu change, the whole agricultural world has to reshift its processes. McDonald's announced that they would transition to cage-free eggs. Burger King announced that they would transition to cage-free eggs. this is what karma is. This is how karma works. We're going to talk later about karma and impacting future lives, because that whole reincarnation thing, everybody's interested in that. But I'm really interested in this. How does karma have sort of instant impact? And how can you and I change the world? That is also karma. Now, here's another question about karma that occurs to us. What about free will versus determinism? So in the study of philosophy, there's often this discussion. Are human beings free? Do we have free will? Or are all of my actions kind of determined by conditioning or external events? Is freedom an illusion? So do we have free will, or is everything determined, determinism? And how does karma kind of weigh in on that? Well, it's complicated, because you'll hear some teachers in Hinduism, you'll hear some voices saying that karma sort of dictates future conditions, so that the conditions of my life right now, some Hindu teachers argue, is the result of stuff that happened in previous lives. And I just don't have much say over that. So you definitely hear that voice. But it's also taught in Hinduism that we have free will, that, of course, things happen in the past that created the conditions in which I now exist. But in this next moment, I'm free. So which is it? Are all the conditions of my life kind of determined by the past, or am I free? Well, let's try to strike a middle path here, to borrow a phrase from Buddha, who we'll study later, that it's a little bit of both. It's both and. Let's look at this together. Isn't it true that most of the conditions in your life, most of the conditions in my life, I did not create? I did not pick my race. I did not choose to be born a white male, a native English speaker, born in an English-speaking country. I did not choose to be 6'3". I'm kind of a tall guy. That's all accidents. I was not consulted on any of that stuff. And so, does that have an impact on my life? Damn right it does. Come on, right? We've all been learning about racism and in our growing and overdue interest in anti-racist work. Do we not recognize that all of us have implicit bias, and that anti-blackness, just to pick one issue, is a terrible problem? And that because I was accidentally born into this body, I had certain advantages. And so that is just one tiny slice of the way in which we are not responsible for all the conditions in which we find ourselves. I didn't pick my family. I didn't pick the personality of my mother and my father and my two brothers. I didn't pick the kids on my street where I grew up who absolutely shaped my life. I didn't pick the kids in all my classes when I was in elementary school. I didn't pick my teachers. I didn't pick the situations and things that happened around me. I didn't pick the town that I grew up in. I grew up in Ventura. I grew up on the beach. So we all surfed. So I surfed all through my life because that's what we did. If I was born in Kansas, I guess I wouldn't have been a surfer, right? So that is easy to see, that many of the conditions of our life we did not freely choose. So let's be clear about this, that each of us inherits a set of conditions that you find yourself in. Does that mean that you are not free? Well, Hinduism would say, yeah, of course, all these past things shaped us. Let's use that word. We were shaped by all of this, but in this next now moment, in this present moment going ahead, I have freedom to choose from a wide array of possibilities. Are my free will choices influenced? Of course they are. By genetic things, we know that things like introversion and extroversion might have genetic components. So there's 1,000 things going on here. But as we study Hinduism, isn't it interesting that we notice that it has a keen interest in what we today would call psychology, the construction of consciousness, the way my mind processes things. So as we discuss karma here, we can see that, boy, it has really far-reaching impact. And there's a sense in which, yes, I was shaped by my past, and those conditions definitely have a huge impact on my life, but we are still free to choose from a wide array. We are not determined completely. So again, both and, right? It's not a binary, either you're determined or you have free will. Hinduism's like, well, both of those things have power and there's even more. So that's one way to kind of think about that piece of it there. You know, if it was all just determined, think about how ugly that would be. And that's why I'm not a big fan of that phrase, what goes around comes around. Just to loop back around to the front of our video here. You know, think about how obscene it would be to say to a rape victim, oh, well, you must have been a rapist in a previous life. What goes around comes around. That's obscene. That is disgusting. It's wrong-headed. I think it's a grotesque misread of the law of karma. Look, none of us single-handedly creates the conditions of our lives. There are billions and billions of free agent human beings running around. Too many karmic threads to account for converging. And sometimes bad things happen. There's a randomness to the way all of these waves crash into each other. So I don't want to leave you with the impression that the law of karma says everything that happens to you is your fault and is somehow cosmically earned. I think that's a pretty erroneous definition of karma. Let's keep karma much more subtle, much more alive, much more potentially beneficial. That you and I, no matter where we come from, no matter what the conditions of our life, you and I always have the opportunity to grow, to evolve, to become encouraged, to increase the level of our discipline and strength, and to start to make better decisions and better choices and choose to surround ourselves with higher quality people and situations and grow and answer that call inside of us to become who we authentically are so that we can more effectively manifest our dharma, manifest our purpose. And that's all karma too. This isn't just a mechanical universe. There are free will spirits, you and I, moving through these sometimes painful conditions. But there has to be in Hinduism the opportunity for evolution, for spiritual evolution through all of these lives, the wheel of samsara, which is what our next video is about. Because of course, in the classic Hindu teachings, karma has an enormous impact on future births. So let's look at that. In the next video, let's look at the reincarnation process. And in the next video, let's also look at release, moksha, the goal of Hinduism, breaking free from this cycle of being reborn thousands and thousands of times and moving to what this whole Hindu project has been about, namely reunifying with Brahmanatman, realizing our oneness and experiencing the quality of Sat Chit Ananda, boundless being, boundless consciousness, and boundless bliss. And that's what our next video is about. Samsara, moksha, and Sat Chit Ananda. See you on the other side.